What's up guys, Mel571 here. Today I'm going to talk about the Audio-Technica A1000Z, and the reason why the cable's attached is because, well, it doesn't detach. This is a closed back 53mm 44 ohm dynamic headphone. Goes back in every sense of the word except for the way it seals on your head, but I'll get to that in a second. Going straight into the sound, the bass first. The mid bass has a hump here, and unfortunately there's a lot of roll off below it. When I ran a sine sweep, it sounds like we get some noticeable roll off as soon as something like 50 hertz here, and it actually sounds kind of worse than that when you're listening to music like EDM with low sub bass. And some of that is because of the seal, as I was just saying at the beginning here. The seal of this thing on the head is strange, and it's not surprising because this is lacking a hinge that allows the cup to rotate like this. It only has this hinge. It does not have the up and down hinge. I'll show you what I mean because I have the A900X right over here, one of my favorite headphones still, 4 years on. It says a hinge that goes this way, and it's got this hinge. The hinge that goes this way is missing on the A1000Z and A2000Z. In fact, all the closed-back Audio-Technicas with wings that are 1000 and 2000 do not have that hinge. They only have this one. And that's really a shame because that means the only way to get this to work is actually to bend the headband. And I'm not going to do that because this is not my pair, but that's kind of the way it is. I think a lot of the open backs are also that way. I think all of them, in fact, 500, 700, 900, 1000, and 2000, X and Z, and whatever's out now. Audio-Technica keeps refreshing those things all the time. They all have this kind of a headband, which is missing that hinge that the A900X has. So if you want that hinge, the only way to get it is to step down to the A990Z, is the current closed back that's got that hinge. But anyway, this seal on my head definitely seems to have an impact on sub bass extension. But even pushing it against my head still doesn't reveal that the bass is really any cleaner. It's not particularly clean. It's mid bass focused. Doesn't extend that well. It's, I don't know. This is like a $399 headphone when it's new on Amazon at least, and yeah, I'm not sure the bass passes for that price. Now moving on to the mid range. The mid range, it's somewhat strange actually because it doesn't really sound anything like the A900X or the A990Z. There's a clear shout at 2 kilohertz on these. And I will admit, I was a little bit tipped off by Tile's graph of the A1000X, which has the same peak actually around 2K. But it's confirmed because when I EQ'd it down, it was definitely there. And if you compare it to other headphones, you'll hear the 2 kilohertz peak. It's kind of like a presence boost in the mids. But even after EQing it, the timbre just wasn't quite right on electric guitars, for example, and metal, in the upper mids, which are really important. Something I use to evaluate the upper mid-range, and it just didn't quite get there. So mid-range is a little bit wonky here. Other than the upper mids, though, I don't think there was any really issues that I was hearing with that, though. Treble-wise, it's not a very bright treble, especially because it's not sibilant. In fact, if anything, the 6K is kind of pushed back, which really isn't that different than the A900X. Which tends to have a really deep 6K valley followed by a 10K-ish peak, and this kind of has that character as well. Although it is a little bit cleaner. Sorry, the cable fell on the floor there. Oh man, non-detachable cables. I almost forgot what that was like. Anyway, the treble is cleaner than the A900X, but it still has a little bit of peak. I think it was more like around 11K when I was playing around with the EQ to go peak finding. That sounds like a ridiculous thing. Who would go peak finding? All right, anyway. So in treble detail, there's an upgrade here. And other than that, I mean, it's got a AT type of treble where it's got the peak and the dip before it, at least for closed back ATs. But yeah, it's okay. But again, for $399, it doesn't seem like the best thing you can buy. It's okay, but it's really the fit that's hurting it here at this point, which I'm going to allude to again probably in the conclusion by the time we get there. Soundstage-wise, Yeah, no, it's not a very wide soundstage at all. It sounds kind of compressed. In fact, I used my own HD380. If anyone's wondering what this is, I get a lot of questions asking what my monitoring headphone is. This is an HD380. I'm actually just listening to the Rode NT1 here live while recording. That's what this headphone is for. But anyway, it's a Sennheiser. And actually, interestingly, the 380 has a pretty good soundstage for being a closed back, although it's really grainy other than that. But I'm not going to launch off into a review on the 380. I have a review of that on the channel if you want to check it out. But yeah, compared to the 380 even, and the K553, which is also a pretty good headphone for a soundstage for a closed back, and that's what I use at the office. Nah, it's not that great here. It's somewhat small. And interestingly, though, compared to the A900X, I found that this is more of the A1000Z is a little bit more of a 3-blob stage. It kind of spreads out the instruments to the sides. In between the side and the center image, there isn't as much. It's kind of bizarre, but that's what I noticed. And so other stuff. I don't know why I keep calling it deal breakers. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm just going to call it other. So stuff like build quality, comfort, isolation. Well, again, the fit is terrible. Like the way this thing tries to seal around your ear. The only attempt is really that the pads are thinner in the front than they are in the back, just a little bit. And it tries to seal a little bit better because of that, but because of the angle it fits on your head, which is highly dependent on the fixed headband, it just doesn't fit that well. And that's one of the biggest things that disqualifies this headphone for me, especially in terms of the price, is you can't even get the fit quite right. And closed back headphones are extremely dependent on seal to get the sound quite as intended. So that's very important. So isolation and bass extension are going to be affected a little bit if you can't get this to seal. Some people maybe will work fine, but I feel like the majority of people will need to mess with the headband, bend it, and do something crazy in order for it to work. And really, also, seriously, no detachable cable at $399? That's what? I don't understand that. Especially in 2019, what is going on here? Non-detachable cables on a headphone that's this expensive is really inexcusable, honestly. Thankfully, though, the cable itself is actually pretty good. It doesn't have much memory. It's not super stiff or anything like that, but it's just not detachable. That's annoying. So to sum it up in the conclusion, I still wouldn't buy this, mainly because of the fit is so bizarre and it's difficult to bend it to get it right. Upgrade over the detail of the A900X and the treble. It's good. Mid-range is not really the same romantic warm thing the A900X does, and so it's quite a bit more of a colored sound, and the soundstage doesn't really have any benefits. If anything, the imaging is more 3-blob than fair. So I'm not really a big fan of this headphone, if you can't tell by now in this review, but that's how it sounds to me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know this is more of a niche, an interesting niche product, however you pronounce that word. Here comes another comment war on how to pronounce that word. But I thought it was pretty interesting that it was nice to hear it, though, thanks to the generous viewer who sent this one in. I depend on you guys for sending me stuff to review, so if you want to send me something, go to my About section on my profile and go ahead and use my business email there to make a request to send something. And I'll review it if it's on my list, which you can also find in the description, I believe. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next review.